Welcome to the New Monks. This podcast is dedicated to those of us on the journey of evolution. Through these episodes, we will dive into the lives of individual people and discover what they have learnt and how they have handled their growth. We believe that we all have wisdom to be shared with each other and can learn from listening to each other's stories. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you feel like leaving us a review and sharing the love, that would be greatly appreciated. Hello and welcome back to the New Monks podcast. I am Jay Muller, and today I'm talking to a young woman called Sarah. And this is a very interesting episode where we talk about her journey into spirituality, past spirituality, going deeper into finding out a lot more truths about this false matrix that we're living in. And if you're not really sure what that is, then I invite you to listen to this episode, because Sarah has a really nice way of describing some things that can be really complicated in a really simple and clear way. So yeah, we share about coming into a lot of information of this false matrix and a lot of the systems and ideas that can have us trapped here, and just her experience of walking into this spiritual discovery and then recognizing that there's this thing called the spiritual matrix and coming out of that, and you know what it all meant for her. It's a very, very, very cool episode, and I highly recommend, if all this kind of information is new to you, to listen. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, so welcome back to the New Monks podcast. We are here with Sarah, and thank you so much for being here and for being to share your story.
Thank you for having me.
Bless. So we haven't actually met, but we've been chatting a bit on Instagram, and I've seen a lot of what you've been posting, and I'm just really excited to start talking about this and dive into what you've been learning. I feel like you've been learning quite a lot recently.
Totally.
Yeah. But how I normally start is if you just take a few moments, take a few deep breaths in and out. And then just tell us how you're feeling right now.
How I'm feeling right now?
Yeah.
I'm feeling present.
That's
just
good.
Very here. I love that you did the breaths, because I feel like it gives, especially doing something like this, I feel like even take a second to just breathe with each other. It's like our fields can kind of sync and communicate beyond what we're saying.
I love that. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like where to begin here.
I feel like there's so much that we can talk about. It's just where is the jumping off point?
Yeah. I guess this whole process of what's been happening since last year is a big place. Like this journey that we're all going through right now is quite a huge moment. I don't know, do you want to share maybe a bit about your journey through this pandemic?
Yeah. It's been it's been weird, because I feel like for so much of my life, I sort of had some sort of intuition that we were living in a time that was fucking crazy. And it was kind of just waiting for that to take form in a big way, I guess. And yeah, I mean, I've had so many, I feel like I've gone through so many experiences of release throughout this past year and whatever. And so much disillusionment. That's really the word that feels most accurate, is like layers and layers of disillusionment as to who I thought I was, how I thought I was going to be showing up in the world, how I related to spirituality, what I was doing in spirituality. And for me, the past like 6 months in particular have been probably the most transformative of my life, because I've really woken up to like this whole spiritual matrix and web of distortion. And I think that's probably been, I think that's been the most intense, but also the most beautiful, because all these identities that I had and all these ways of thinking of myself and other people seeing me just fucking crumbled. I hope it's okay that I swear. Let me know if that's not okay.
Okay.
But yeah, so I guess overall, like the theme for me has just been kind of continuous change and continuing to embrace like what God's source is leading me to, even if that means I have to let go of this whole thing that I thought I was, or this whole path that I thought I was going to be traveling down.
Yeah, I love that. Yes. Yeah. I'm like getting a few things I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So do you want to describe maybe a little bit about what your kind of path looked like before this whole crumbling?
Yeah.
And how
I guess briefly, I mean, just a little bit of my background. So before I kind of got into like spiritual work in the spiritual realm of life, I've always wanted to be of service. So I went to nursing school, and I thought I wanted to be a nurse. And then throughout the journey of getting my degree, I just went through a whole, I guess you could call it a spiritual awakening within myself. I became really aware of my own trauma and how much self-hatred I had carried, and just how much I had been like projecting my pain out onto the world, especially with partners. I went through a breakup, and that was kind of the like gutting, of my identity.
Yeah.
And then from there, I was introduced into like Reiki and energy healing and kind of all of those, a lot of the new age stuff, right? And a lot of the kind of spiritual world through that, through that lens. And I was like, oh my God, like this is it, and I feel like I really started to see through the 3D, where I was like, okay, we are basically encouraged to just fit into this mold where we go to college and we get a job and we get married, we have kids, and we just kind of are a part of this collective program. And I always was dissatisfied with that from when I was even a young kid. Like I would look at my parents and I would just honestly be like, I don't want this. Like, I feel like there's so much more to who we are and what life is than just this like predictable existence.
Good phrase.
Yeah. I know. I like that too. I haven't thought of that before, but that's like what I feel like we're given. It's just like this, very predictable map of like, this is what you do. And so I decided, I finished nursing school, and then I decided like, okay, I want to actually be of service to people in a deeper way. So I moved back. I went to nursing school in Australia. So I moved back to the US and started a business and started working with people one-on-one and doing energy healing and empowerment work and all of that.
Yeah.
And then that went on for a few years. And there just always felt like there was, I don't know, there always just felt like there was something that wasn't quite right for me, or there was something that was missing in the new age and in the way that I was like thinking that I was helping people heal. And I think I did help people, but again, I wasn't aware that there was a much bigger picture that I wasn't aware of, as you know.
Wow.
And there was a lot of distortion. And so earlier this year, at the beginning of this year, like I just had the veils ripped down and just saw so much of the distortion in the spiritual communities in the new age. I saw how so much of what I had been doing was perpetuating that timeline with the 5D, with all of this stuff. And I was just like, it was the most uncomfortable shit I've ever been through, because I literally had to go through such a huge crumbling of like, yeah, who I thought I was and how I thought people like looked up to me. And, you know, this whole kind of idea that I had of myself of like being someone who guides other people and being someone who helps other people. And then actually seeing where you've been perpetuating distortion and actually keeping people in loops without knowing it was like confronting. It was really, really confronting. And that really started this journey into, you know, starting to connect with all these people who are, you know, talking about these eternal life principles, and starting to learn about what the spiritual matrix is, and starting to learn what is actually what is this fallen reality, and learning about actual coding mechanics of this reality. I mean, it's been reality shattering shit, you know?
It sounds amazing at the same time. I really want to just dig a little bit deeper into the whole crumbling process. So when you said you were doing energy work before, do you mean like Reiki kind of things?
Yeah, it's interesting because I actually kind of started like without knowing about any of this stuff. I used to practice Reiki and this other modality called theta healing, which I actually now think theta healing is so hijacked, like, and that's a whole nother conversation, but I think it's a super hijacked modality. They basically teach you to go to this plane that they call the seventh plane, which is supposedly the space of God source. But I always had a weird feeling about it. And I actually think it might be some aspect in the astral realm, because you hear about like the false white light and sort of the false light that kind of imitates source. And anyway, so I have my own theories. I haven't really dug too much into them, but I used to practice that with people, and then Reiki. Okay. But then it sort of moved more into just mentoring people.
Okay.
And, you know, helping people really become aware of their traumas and feel their emotions. And like a lot of what I did with people was empowering, and my intention was really to support people in their sovereignty. And I think I did that to some degree, but again, there was just all this other information missing, you know, and I wasn't aware of, you know, even some of the teachings that we learn, like we are all one. Like there's a heavy distortion in that when we're trying to unify with everything in our reality, when there's a lot in our reality that is draining our energy, trying to feed off of us, you know? So yeah, it's like, it's a mixed bag, you know, because in some senses, I feel like I really did support people. And then in other senses, it's like there was vital information that I did not have that I wasn't able to give to people at that time.
Yeah. I always find it such an interesting thing to get your head around with like where you are in your journey, and like as a healer or practitioner, space holder, and what you're offering, because really, obviously, you can only go as far as you can go, you know, you can only offer as far as you've been. And also, there's nothing wrong with that, because, you know, you're going to just meet other people, you know, who are going to align with you, you know, so it's like, in one way, it's like it doesn't really matter, but then also when you discover the more information, then it's like, hang on a minute, what?
Yeah, exactly. And from one perspective, it's like, you know, if we hadn't been, or in my experience, if I had not been all in the new age and the spiritual matrix and lived it for myself, I wouldn't know that I wouldn't be able to even understand that it existed, you know?
Yes. I think that's really important. Just knowing that every step of the journey is needed. It's necessary.
Totally. Totally.
How
Yes.
would you describe this new age, like spirituality? Because I feel like that can be quite confusing.
Yeah. I mean, the way I would describe it most easily is the way that I've related to it is like people go through a spiritual awakening, and most of the time we wake up to what I would call the 3D, like the 3D matrix. We wake up to like the fact that there's this whole kind of reality where we've been lied to about who actually is controlling the planet, like what's in the food, what's in the water, what's in the air. Like, we've been really kind of cut off from ourselves as spiritual beings, or as this vaster consciousness. And I feel like when we wake up from the 3D, if you want to call it that, we then enter into the world of spirituality, or like the new age world, where it's like, the law of attraction, and people start learning about 5D and oracle cards and astrology and all these different things that I feel like are kind of part of this new movement, I guess, this different thing than the 3D. And I feel like we all kind of think like, we made it. Like, this is it. This is what it is. Like, okay, these are what chakras are. And like, this is, the astrology means this. And, we have our guides, and we're all encouraged to start connecting with all of these beings. Call upon your guides, aliens are here to help us, call upon them. So I feel like, for me at least, a lot of the new age was opening to the fact that there's more than just this physical realm. But it was kind of a free-for-all of just like, everyone's good. You don't have to worry about anything. Just call on whoever you want and just ingest all of this information from outside of you and just trust that it's all true.
Wow, yeah.
So that's how I would describe it, at least.
Yeah. And then what is your understanding as well of this 5D idea?
Well, I was really in it for a while. It made sense to me. Like, okay, if this realm that we've been in is the third dimension, that makes sense. Like, we're raising our consciousness. Like that makes logical sense to me, that if the whole planet is made up of our collective consciousness and we're co-creating it, if we all raise that consciousness, it made sense to me that like we would be in a different dimensional field, and that would be the fifth dimension.
Okay.
And from what I've learned, and also just, of course, I feel like everybody tuning into yourself, it's like tuning into what feels true for you. But for me, what I've learned and what I've like discovered within myself is there's, first of all, 5D is like that's not the last place we can go. We can go all the way to like 12D and beyond that. And from what I understand, this reality, because we've been in a fallen matrix, meaning the way that the reality has been coded, it's cut off from God's source. So it can't sustain itself. Like us in our true essence, being birthed from this eternal source, we are self-perpetuating. We don't need to like take in order to live, but the reality we've been born into is all about taking and consuming. And the way I understand 5D is that the fifth dimension is like heavily hijacked, and that there's also infiltration going all the way up to 11.5D. Mm-hmm. And so, with like Dr. Jerry's work and the, morphogenetic physics and all of that, it's like, it makes sense to me why there's 12th dimensional shielding and things like this, because once we reach that 12th dimension, it's like it's free of distortion.
Yeah. Just backtracking a little bit, you said disconnected from God's source, this fallen system. Can you just explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. So from how I relate to it and understand it, there is like an original code for creation. Like there is an original intended structure of reality, and those living in reality that is connected to its source, that is always self-generating and self-perpetuating. And because we are expressions of this creator, we also have the ability to have free will and make choices. And from what I understand, there have been groups of beings, races, like collectives of beings, higher dimensional than us, who decided with their own free will to cut off from that source and create their own shit, basically. And it's like once a being cuts off from its source, it doesn't have its codes anymore. It cannot, it can't create from that source. And so it has to take. So from what I understand, these collectives have created this whole fallen reality to feed themselves and to basically sustain themselves. And they have to do that to survive. And that's so much of the distortion around the 5D and so much of the distortion in the new age, because a lot of what we're encouraged to do invites these beings, these energies in to actually siphon from us. And we just think it's this innocent, like, oh, I'm talking to this guy, or I'm talking to whoever. And it's like, it's actually, you're being used and you're being manipulated. So that's, I hope, does that make sense? That explanation?
Yeah. So yeah, that makes sense. And basically the understanding is that this planet, this system has been disconnected from source. So it's quite crazy, like coming into this information, I think, because it's just like, what? It just completely turns everything around on its head,
Totally.
And it's so subtle. Like what you're saying about the spiritual matrix, it's so subtle. Like you said, you just think, oh, it's fine, I can connect with anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But then you start to learn that that's an intricate design.
Totally. Yeah. And I feel like too, it's like, to me, it's such a testament of like the power of source, the power of the eternal, because even with so much effort that has been created to create this like fallen matrix that basically harvests our consciousness, like there is still organic creation here. Like there is the earth, there is the life on this earth. There's us. Like, yes, our bodies and our DNA have been messed with for sure, but like we are still organic beings, and it's pretty
True.
Freaking amazing that with so much ridiculous manipulation and effort to keep us separate from our source, like we are still remembering and we are still connecting. Like that is fucking incredible.
That's
honestly.
So true.
Like
it's so true though. There's so much that it's so like, but it's crazy. It's crazy that it's all happening. I feel like a lot of it is happening now. Me specifically the same. This year it was just like,
yeah.
Whoa, yeah. Just like,
okay, so this whole disillusionment this happened for you this year as well.
Yeah. And I think, like for me, about the spiritual kind of matrix, I don't think I fell into it that deeply. Like I went and explored lots of different things, but nothing really sat with me because I felt like I was on a mission to find freedom, and some things just didn't feel right. And that's probably why, there's a reason for that. So it's like, I don't know, when it coming to all of this information for me, it's like, oh my word, this makes a lot of sense. Like, like you said as well, like you always felt like something was off, with that, this, what did you call it? Predictive Yeah.
I don't know. Predictable existence or predictive existence?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's funny you say that you never got too much into it, because I remember I had a lot of different people in my life who were super into different things, whether it was like really diving fully into astrology or some of these just different like things, you know? And I always, there was some interest
Yeah.
and something I've heard someone say that resonated so much, like with like the flower of life, for example, which is not actually that. We're given these things in the spiritual matrix that they contain some truth. And so at some level, it resonates with our being.
Yes.
Because it's like we have these codes in our DNA.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, we feel some resonance, but it's like two truths and a lie. So there's some truth in there, but then there's a very calculated distortion or lie in there as well. And I think like with me, with astrology, when I first learned about astrology, I think I did my birth chart or something, and I read through my birth chart, and some of it was really accurate to who I felt I was at that time. And I got interested in it, and there was truth that I felt, but then I tried to force myself to like really learn it. Same with tarot. I tried to force myself to like really learn this so I could be a tarot reader, and I could never get myself. I always felt so much resistance. And I for the longest time, I thought I was just being lazy.
Wow.
And I would just keep telling myself that, like, you're just being lazy, that you don't want to put in the time to really learn these like sacred systems and all of this stuff. And then now, years later, I'm like, whoa, that was actually just my being, knowing that it would have been a waste of time for me personally to dive into a system that I would later find out is distorted.
Yeah.
But for some people, I think they were meant to totally dive into it.
Yes.
You know, and learn all the things. For me, it's like, and it sounds like for you, that wasn't the path.
Yeah, like I definitely explored a lot and went down different avenues, but then I just like moved through it, you know, didn't really stay there.
Yeah.
And there's thing, like it's funny because I used to read my horoscope a lot, but I was never into the astrology part of it, you know, because I always found it very restricting. This is who you are, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not really what I'm designed for, but still, you know, the way people talk about it, or that people were talking to me about it, like they put in labels on me, and I don't know. I've got really strong call for freedom, so I'm just like, no, don't even try it.
Yes. I love that, and I feel that. I can feel that within you, and I share that. Like I would always get really. I had a few friends that were astrologers, and they would be telling me things, and I'm just like, look, it's a great, you know, it's great if you can gain awareness about things, but it did feel really restrictive of like, okay, you have this aspect here, you have this aspect here, or even like, oh, Mars is doing this right now, or whatever. It's like, it was always this outside like thing telling me who I am or what to be. And it felt, I really rejected that. Like, I feel very similar to you, that I would really push against that.
Yeah, and I think what you said here is so on point. It's like, you know, you get to waking up realizing this 3D world is kind of a bit strange, and then you get to another level and you're like, oh wow, and then again you can just stay there and just think that's it, but then actually there's more. But obviously they always say the journey never ends, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And then also I like what you said about, you know, we are all one, this idea, and then the what you said about the disconnection from God's source. Yeah, do you want to talk about that a bit more, maybe, you know, like what the intricacies now you understand behind that statement to be?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I actually was writing for videos. I write out like in a notebook before I do them. It helps me kind of like, you know, sort of bring through what it is I want to say. And that really came through last night. It was like the we are one. And from the very like highest level, yes, like all of existence is interconnected. That's true. But we are living on this planet, in this galaxy, in this universe that has been literally infiltrated with all of this like corrupted coding. You could think of it that way. And so when we're living by the principle of we are all one, which I did for a long time, I feel like it kind of confused me, because I would see like evil shit happening in the world, and I would be like, okay, but we're all one. So I guess that's okay. I guess it's just gonna like work itself out. That was one thing that went through my mind. And then I feel like another part of the we are all one thing, it kind of teaches us that like everything you see outside of you, even if it's like literally some evil shit, is a reflection of your own shadow. And we're all one. And so we're all just reflecting each other. So you are me and I am you. And there's no separation. And it was just like, I feel like it kind of gaslit me because I would find myself trying to bypass the real shit's happening on this planet, number one.
Yeah.
And then I would also find myself, instead of having boundaries and being like, okay, well, actually, like, I'm not like hurting children the way that I see these people doing. So that's actually not a reflection of me. And I don't need to take responsibility for like literal horrendous stuff that I don't believe God source wants us to be doing or would be doing itself.
Yeah.
So I just feel like it created so much confusion for me on how do I grapple with what's going on in the world.
Yes.
Number one,
Yeah.
which was just weird. And then secondly, it's like when we're saying that we are all one, and I've seen people too, like some people that I used to follow on Instagram, would be sharing about different goddesses or different deities, and they would say like, you are her and she is you, like you are the same. And I've seen many people say that, and I'm sure I probably said that at some point. And like literally what we're doing is when we're saying that, we're literally inviting ourselves to merge with entities and beings that are literally cut off from God. And there's kind of this distorted idea of, okay, well, we just need to love the evil and that's how it integrates. But like, if you have a dark entity literally feeding on you and you try to love it, it's not going to go away and dissolve. You're feeding it. Like it's just going to actually continue to take from you.
Yeah.
And so I think the concept of we are one invites a lot of energetic infiltration in, because it's kind of just like, okay, everybody's everything. And it's not really like making the distinction that there are some of us who are choosing to return to our original organic coding. And that means that we actually have to rid ourselves of all the programs and all the shit that we've taken on in this reality that is not us.
Yes.
Like the reversals, the distortions, our DNA has been severely damaged.
Yeah.
And so when we're trying to unify with that, like we don't want to be unifying with fallen energy and artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Like that's putting us on a whole other timeline.
Yes. I like that. I'm gonna ask you something now, and it just slipped out of my mind. Yeah. What would you say is because I feel like a lot of this, you're saying about goddesses, a lot of that is written in ancient religions, not just religions, but practices, traditions. So, and I think a lot of this information that I've definitely stumbled into this year, it's kind of also saying that a lot of that stuff is also part of this fallen, hijacked system,
Yeah. That's what I've come to as well. And I think that's the thing is like, it's not, and for me, and I'm sure for you too, it's like this came in layers and levels of like, okay, I would kind of go through this disillusionment and be like, okay, like all this stuff I thought was true is not what I thought. Like, all right, I'm kind of acquiescing to this new reality or new truth. And then there would be more layers. And that's where I've been led as well, is that this infiltration from these collectives of beings, this is not new. This has been existing on this planet for literally tens of thousands of years. And what I found really interesting was when I started like looking into ancient cultures, and I don't know if you've ever watched like David Icke. I definitely don't resonate with every single thing that he says, but he does have some valuable information that resonated with what I was feeling within myself. And he talks about pretty much all of the ancient cultures have, in different ways, they have either, writings or drawings or art of beings coming down in ships or different forms, who they ascribed as gods. And these cultures, they all described them in one way or another as serpent-like or reptile-like beings. And then they worshipped them, and these beings gave them information and technology and all of these different things. And so what I believe is that these were these fallen beings that were coming to humans and representing themselves as gods. Because, I mean, if you were a people and these like beings with higher intelligence and technology just like rolled up, you'd be like, whoa, like, you must be God, right? And so from what I understand, they represented themselves as God source, which of course they are not, gave them, these different sacred teachings. And so I believe, again, I think there's truths in them, probably in all of them. But the thing that always comes to me is like the two truths and a lie. Because you see the flower of life in all these ancient sacred sites. And it's like, if you really look into the geometry of the flower of life, it is a finite, consumptive geometry. It's like it can't actually sustain itself. And same with the Fibonacci sequence. So all of this knowledge and stuff that was given to these ancient peoples, I believe, came through this fallen lens. So I think the distortion goes way back, even before that.
Yeah, one thing that I heard, because I think it sometimes can get really confusing for anyone. One thing I'd heard, I can't remember where it was said, what happens is they give you 80% truth and 20% lies. And I feel like, that no wonder why.
And that's always resonated with me so much, because it's like, and from what I've learned in terms of, I used to be so interested in learning about like the intelligence agencies within the government and all of that stuff. So I would do a bunch of research into that. I kind of studied a little bit of just like mind control and mass mind control and all this kind of stuff, and disinformation, and how you control people through information. And so much of what I came across was like, you have to include some truth.
Yes.
And then you include the lie and the distortion. So it's like there has to be enough in there for us to feel some truth in it, and then we just accept all of it.
Yeah. And then also that works the other way around, because it makes people laugh at it and say, haha, that's not,
Yes. Oh, that's such a good point. Yeah.
What would you say to anyone who's like, I feel like you've been through this whole process, like you say you were in that spiritual matrix before anyway. So like for you, this has been a whole process of just like, oh my God, it's not even that what I was doing before isn't 100% the truth. Like, I don't know, do you have any words that you can say to offer anyone who may be going through a similar process, this unraveling?
Yeah, I think, I mean, being patient with yourself and being compassionate, because it is confronting, it is confronting. And it also, for me, it's like so many of the people that I was connected to or like following on Instagram were so embedded in it. And so it was scary for me, because I was like, oh shit, like I'm probably not going to be received by these people anymore with what I have to say and what I know to be true. And so I went through a lot of, I mean, again, there were so many layers, but I went through a lot of purging of fear, especially waking up to the darker realities. I had a lot of subconscious fear of like demons and these different types of beings. I was really afraid of that existence. So when I really actually came to the understanding, like, yeah, this shit's real, you know, like this is a part of the reality that we've been born into. And we have to be able to acknowledge that that's happening to be able to actually release that fear and really come back to who we are. So I would say be patient with yourself in your process and, you know, prioritize your relationship to source over everything else. Like when I started having this crumbling happen, I just came into myself every day and I would just pray every day, like, show me the truth. Show me the truth and just take from my life and from my consciousness anything that is not true. Like, I don't care if it's so uncomfortable and I'm, you know, not connected to any of these people, or I don't even do my business anymore. I totally released the idea of even working with people because I didn't know what it would look like. I just knew I couldn't do it in the same way that I did before. And so my own relationship to my source, to God, was literally the most, and is like just the core of everything, because I was so distrustful of information, obviously, because you go through this whole like, what the fuck is true then if all this shit's been distorted?
Yeah.
And I think it's the ultimate call within ourselves, the ultimate call to like devote to our own relationship with ourselves and with source, because we actually have the knowledge and the truth within ourselves. It's just that we have to clear out the programs and clear out the distortions. Yes.
Yeah.
So that we can feel it, so that we can actually sense it.
Actually, yes, this is a good one. I like it. Wait, I feel like, you know, like you say, the programming, I think a lot of our conditioning has been, you know, constantly looking outside, listening to the sources outside of ourselves. And I feel like that's especially happening right now with this whole situation and that's happening in the world. And I think it's a lot of, you know, we were taught to be those kinds of beings, you know, to act in that way. So, and then it's like what you're saying, and also what I believe is very different way of operating, you know, connect back to source and get your answers there, rather than going, you know, it's very different. Have anything to share, or like, you know, any experiences that you've had recently?
Yeah, I love that you said that. I love that you said that, because that I feel like that is the epitome of why everything is the way that it is, because we have been, like you said, so conditioned to just look for everything outside of ourselves and to rely on, whether it's governments, whether it's an authority, whether it's a spiritual teacher, whatever, whether it's a book. We've been taught to rely and trust everything outside of us, basically at the expense of our own inner knowing, without even knowing that we have an inner knowing or how to connect to it. So I love that you brought that in, because that was a big part of it for me, was actually being honest with myself about where, like, I feel like I became really unconsciously almost dependent on like certain YouTubers or certain spiritual teachers, that I would listen to their stuff. I almost like felt like I needed to hear what they were channeling or what they were saying to have like the validation within myself. I even would do that with oracle cards. Like I loved oracle cards, and I feel like I needed to do them to make sure that I was like doing the right thing, or that I could trust this feeling that I was having within myself. So I really had to go through a period of like, and I feel like I need to do this continuously and check myself on it. Like a period of actually like fasting from seeking the information outside, and actually really devoting to, like you said, going back to source and going within myself and having that be the first point always. Because otherwise it's like I don't even fully trust the information. Like even with all of the eternal life stuff and coming across Dr. Jerry, it's like I only really started to resonate with that when I had really started to build up my own inner knowing and my own connection with source. And then I could feel the truth in it.
Wow.
And then I started to like, yeah, all these people like yourself, like I think sourcing from within yourself information, starting to like kind of shift from always looking out from all these different places to coming back in. And I feel like once I built that connection up within myself and with source, then I started to receive people like you coming into my field where I was like, oh, like she's on this page, like, whoa, okay. And then like, more and more.
Yeah. So funny, isn't it? But also I do feel like this is it. Because I feel like, this is a different kind of group of people coming together now. It's like, oh, this is the tribe.
Yes. Oh, I have chills.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's funny as well, isn't it? It's people from all over the world. And it's,
Yeah, literally.
So there was something else that I wanted to ask. I think I was asking before, just, yes. Like, did you have any moments where you kind of resisted the information that was coming to you, or?
Totally. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, there were times when like there was like a specific like teaching or something that I remember someone writing about the distortion in, and I just got pissed. Like I was just so frustrated. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was the idea that you create your own reality.
Oh, yeah.
I create my own reality. And I think it was, I don't know if you're connected to Brandon. Unification is his handle, I believe. And he was writing about the distortion in that principle of like, I create my own reality. And he was kind of talking about just like how a lot of the energy within the spiritual communities and like the new age can be very self-serving and is bypasses a lot of like what's actually going on in the world. And it's just like, I create my own reality. And it also kind of leaves source out of it. And I remember when that first came into my awareness, and it catalyzed so much to be released from me, because there was a lot of service to self energy that I was playing in that I didn't really want to look at.
Oh, yeah.
It was unconscious, but it was there, it was like,
yeah.
Especially having like a spiritual business, like there's all this weird distortion in that too, where like I've had teachers who are like, you just hear like, it's all about like 10K months, months. Like it's all, so you've heard that too.
Yeah, no, I've been talking about this. Like, what is this about? I don't understand it. Like, what?
Yeah. Okay. So it's like, that is so in the thing. And I feel like, yes, obviously right now we live in this reality where we need money. Like, yeah, right now that's a thing where like to thrive and to be able to live in this reality, we need money. But over time, when I was buying into this whole like 10K months and all this stuff, slowly and subtly that became, because I still had this survival shit operating within me and I was trying to make a living doing this work, I feel like my actual service got polluted with this like service to self energy and this idea of, okay, my business needs to be 6 figures and I need to be making $10,000 every month. And a lot of what we hear and what a lot of people teach in the spiritual communities about this, I feel like it was very self-serving. And I feel like it's really easy for people to get disconnected from their actual service because it's kind of playing on that same 3D programming where we're really programmed. Yes, in 3D. Yeah. It feels like it's like the same shit in a different costume. Yes. The same kind of materialism, subtle materialism. It's like we're going to have all these spiritual things and all this spiritual money, but it's like there's still this focus on the material and on me more so than service, it felt like, in my experience.
Yeah, I came across this term recently, spiritual narcissism, and I feel like I think I've seen it quite a few times since then. And yeah, I think it's just like part of it, isn't it? You know, and not everyone is in that whole kind of field, really. Even people within the spiritual matrix, you know, not everyone is going down that path. But it's funny, isn't it? It's like some things can just like trap you in a certain way, and it's like, wait, is this actually leading me to the truth?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. It's like not everybody's going to have that experience by any means, but I feel like there are so many little things like that in so many different so many different expressions, you know, and
yes,
the spiritual, oh my gosh, I'm having all these burps. I always like release through burps, but I feel like the spiritual narcissism for sure. And I was definitely playing in that and I didn't realize it. And it's like, you have to be like, if someone's experiencing that, you do have to be honest with yourself because it's not always easy to be like, oh, I'm actually being service to self right now. Like what, you know, and actually really asking ourselves what our intentions are. So that's what's called, you know, that's this whole experience, all this crumbling. It has been so amazing because it's called me so much deeper into truth with myself and really being honest with myself.
Love that.
And then once you look at that, once you actually are like, okay, yeah, I've been kind of playing in this spiritually narcissistic energy or whatever it is, the only way to actually like remove that programming and energy is you have to acknowledge it. Like if you don't even admit that it's there, how can you release it?
Yes, it's so true. It's difficult though because it's like we're taught this specific way of living and then we're conditioned to an extent, and then it's like when obviously it's a journey, it unfolds naturally really ultimately, but you know, we can resist our own progress sometimes, you know, because we don't want to believe it, because we don't want to hear it, because we don't want to, you know. I watched this guy on Instagram the other day and he had this amazing phrase. He said, you know, I've come up with this own phrase, the way that people react when they hear information that is true, but you know, it doesn't really sit with them. And what was the term he used? Agitated denial. That's what he called it.
Wow.
I know. And I was like, whoa, that is so deep.
That's so true though. It is such an agitated experience. It's like,
right?
yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Thinking about times that's happened to me, it's been this just like frustrated rejection of whatever it is.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like, no, like, fuck off. I don't want to hear that. That's no, just no.
Yeah. So do you like, what can you say for people who might be experiencing that? I think there's a lot of that happening, you know? And like, maybe sometimes you should be doing it, but sometimes maybe it's like, well, actually, maybe tune in a little bit more there. So maybe like, yeah, anything that you've learned from your experience about that specific, like being able to open up to the defensiveness, and then also like how to discern.
Totally. Yeah, that's such a good distinction because I feel like sometimes we feel an aversion to something because it's like, it's not for us, you know? It's like, I feel like when I've learned some of the deeper truths about just honestly some of the evil, disturbing stuff happening on this planet, I've felt a huge aversion to it and a feeling of disgust because
naturally,
I think that would be weird if we didn't feel that, you know, when we find out this horrible stuff that's happening. But what you're saying, I think, so it's like could be that experience of feeling something that you just know is like not in integrity, you know, or not right within yourself. And so that's one experience, I guess, where you could feel that kind of backlash to something. But for me, I guess the times where I felt, what was that term you said that he used?
Agitated denial.
Agitated denial. Yeah, when I've let myself have the agitation at first, because for me, usually it's something I'm reading, or it's something that I'm usually not face to face with a person when this happens to me personally. Because I'm thinking about like my parents, for example, and they definitely get this agitated denial with me when I try to tell them different things that I believe about the shot or the V or whatever, the virus. So it's a little bit different, I guess, if you're in person with someone. But when I've come across information, and I've had that experience, I usually let myself feel it first. Like I let myself feel the agitation. I let myself feel the frustration. I kind of have my little mini tantrum within myself of just like, no, like, I don't want this to be true. I don't want to consider this.
Yes.
And for me, at least, letting myself have that experience every single time, once I've calmed down, I've been able to say, okay, the fact that I had such a reaction to something invites a little bit of a deeper inquiry, just period. Like, you know, if I have such a strong reaction to something, it's like, okay, let's look at that. And once I let myself feel the frustration or whatever, like that experience with the you create your own reality thing, once I had my little, you know, rebellion within myself and I calmed down, I really started to consider it. And then from this more gentle place, I really started to see like, okay, this is actually something to look at. And then I started to kind of notice within myself, okay, I kind of see where I've been playing into that. And it was a sort of a process. It's usually a process for me over a few days or even longer than that, where I really start to kind of sober myself to looking at different things within myself that maybe I didn't want to see before, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said earlier, being patient with yourself as well.
Totally. Yes. Because it's such a process, like in your body too, I feel like, where your nervous system is having different reactions. Like things are actually happening in your body. And I've done this before where I've tried to force myself, you know, tried to not have the reaction and force myself to this end goal. And it just doesn't work for me, at least. So it's like I have to let the process unfold itself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think also it's really important, like you said earlier, because, you know, if we don't accept it, if we don't look at it, then, you know, I don't know, it's like, are we walking the path of truth, or is this is actually the path of denial?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is important to be able to get to that place where you can, because I think a lot of the stuff is dark, you know, it's dark. And it's not easy for everyone to confront or in a given moment, you know? So it's like, how do we find the capacity to be able to say, okay, I'm going to look at this and think that, you know, it might be a possibility.
Yeah. Oh, beautifully said. Yeah. I feel like for me, what has brought me through all these different experiences, I'm sure you could relate to, from what you've been saying about truth and freedom, is like a devotion to truth.
Oof.
Like,
yes.
Like learning it gave me goosebumps. Like learning all this distortion and shit. It's just like, there were so many times when I was so overwhelmed, so confused, so frustrated, and just sitting with myself, talking to God, talking to source, like, just show me the fucking truth. Like, just, that is what I want. I don't care. Like, obviously there's like, I care. I'm releasing a lot of comforts and a lot of things I held on to, but ultimately what I care about is truth. Yeah. And having that as my intention is what has, and my relationship to source with that intention is what has brought me through so much of that darkness. It's just that commitment to like the truth, no matter how fucking uncomfortable or inconvenient that truth might be to my,
Wow,
my belief systems or whatever.
inconvenient.
So inconvenient.
That is so true.
I think Chris, Peaceful Human Advancement. Are you connected to him? Yeah. Yes. I feel like I found you through him. He said something once in one of his videos, like, if you're not willing to challenge your own belief systems, like, what the heck are you doing? Like, I don't know exactly what he said, but it was something along those lines of like, we have to be willing to let our belief systems be challenged if we actually want to experience truth and if we actually want to evolve.
Yes, because it's the lens that you're looking through, It's like, we can keep saying this information and also going back to our reverted conditioning on how we, perceive things in the world. But like, what if that's skewed, How do you even know if it's skewed? It's like, and it's interesting as well because it's like, this whole spiritual waking up from the 3D matrix and going into this realm of spirituality, you do have to question things, But then it's like, are you continuing?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. Yeah, because it's like you question all this stuff and then you kind of think like, okay, so now all this information, we're here, like this is it. And I think that's why maybe too it's so hard for people to really face the spiritual matrix and face this stuff, because I feel like the way we've been conditioned as humans is we associate safety with what we think we know. And so when something is ripping out,
that's so true.
Right? Like, so when everything we know or that we thought we knew, we're finding out it's like littered with distortion, there can be a super like core feeling of unsafety that comes up within us. And I think some people are just like, no, I'm not going there.
But yeah, definitely. And it's interesting because like you said, your connection to just show me the truth, that's kind of like ground you almost.
Yeah. Right. So so much so.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the only thing that can ground us is like our relationship to source. Cause it's like you were saying earlier, it's that moving from like this outwardly focused thing to in. And I think that can be scary too, because a lot of us never have done that and we don't know how to do that. And maybe we don't trust ourselves and maybe we don't think we know. And think of all the unworthiness and stuff that can come up within that. Like it did for me, for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot. This journey is not for the faint-hearted.
No. Oh my God. And especially if you're fucking waking up to the spiritual matrix, that is a whole nother level of strength and courage. And like, the fact that so many of us have and are is honestly so inspiring and just so powerful. Like, yeah, it gets me chills to think about that we're even here having this conversation. Is like so cool.
It is. I'm just thinking like watching it from another lens. Like, I love this.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to ask as well, how did the information come to you?
It came so organically because I don't even, how did it even start? I don't even remember. I think the start for me was when I first heard the term false light.
Oh, yes.
And I was like, what is that? And I remember I was watching a video. There was this YouTuber that I used to watch all the time, and she was one of the people who channeled like the Galactic Federation. This was in 2020. And I didn't really know about false light yet, but I was watching one of her videos and she was like channeling these beings, and somebody asked a question and they were like, what is false light? And like, what are the false light beings? And the Galactic Federation channeling through this woman said, there's no such thing as false light. False light doesn't exist.
Oh.
You can't have false light. That doesn't make any sense. All these different things. And oh my God, I have chills because I remember when I heard the question and I had never heard that term before. And I kind of got a pit in my stomach and I was like, oh, fuck. Like, what is that? What does that mean? And I feel like I could sense, oh God, there's stuff that I've been doing and buying into that hasn't been what I thought.
Yeah.
But then the answer that these beings gave, I was like, oh, okay. That's not real. And I feel like I could feel that answer wasn't true, but I was not ready. I was not ready to face that. And it was like a few months after that I think was maybe July of last year or something. And it was a few months after that I started to actually learn more about what is false light. And then from there, it was kind of this progression of like, I thought at first it was just people who were, but you hear the love and lighters, like people talk about that as false light, who are just kind of in the new age list, the love and light. So for a while I thought, oh, it's just that. And then it was this progressive learning of like, oh, it's not just that. Like it's actually a fallen reality. So it was over time. And I think it needed to be for me because I don't know what would have happened if I wouldn't have learned about it all at once. Like, I don't know if I would have had just like a mental breakdown or what. Like, if you feel like sharing, how did it happen for you?
Yeah, I was just going to say actually that now that you were mentioning it, I'm like, oh yeah, the same thing happened to me last year as well. And like a lot of the stuff has come over to me since last year, but before that, I felt like I was always still looking. But I think I got to a point where I realized I don't need to look outside anymore. I was like, everything's here. Like, I don't need to search anymore. I can, if I want to go and explore some things, I want to, but like, I've stopped, calling everything back and just being, finding true sovereignty. That was my lesson last year. Throughout this whole pandemic, it was huge. I was like, whoa, these are serious, like, activations going on here. And then a similar thing happened. It was all this talk about false light. And I was like, oh, what is this? Because I don't know, I wasn't really too much following in so many people who are channeling. But I did follow a couple maybe. And then again, another friend of mine, the Spirit of Life, she did like a podcast. And then they were talking all about this kind of stuff. And it's funny because I think back then it didn't really, like I heard it, and probably quite similar to how you described it. It was like, okay, just increments, like how deep it goes,
Right.
Yeah. But and then I remember last September or something, then I fell into this huge, like, black, empty, vast space. And I was just like, whoa, this is really crazy, like, theory,
Right.
And it took a while as well. This whole idea that this is hijacked reality and, everything here is set up to freaking trap you, I was just like, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like didn't do anything. I was just like, okay, let me just trust my path, just keep going. And then I think this year it was like, boom, go. Like, and then it was like, it's time.
Just totally. You probably needed too, just like a literal period of like physical integration and like physical, just like literally becoming like, like learning that and that whole like, black empty space you described. Like there was probably a period that you needed to really just like, okay, just like not do anything about it. Just like be with it, you know? Yeah.
Because I don't think I did. Yeah. I was reading a little bit through Instagram mainly. And then I was like, okay, stop. And then, exactly. Just sit with it. And it's funny, isn't it? Because then after a while, something just in me was just like, okay, more, Like, keep going.
Totally. Yes. Yes, I feel that so much. I feel like once I had a level of acceptance and a level of like familiarity and like I don't know, a sense of like groundedness
Yes.
with accepting that this stuff is true, it was like, okay, like I love how you said that because I feel like I had the same thing, like, let's go, like,
Yes.
let's go.
Yes. That's
What else? What else needs to be decoded? Like, where am I still holding distortion? Like truth. Like, and it's just
yes.
been that continuous
Yes.
devotion to that truth. And it's just so cool. I feel like, because I feel like we're connected to a lot of similar people on Instagram, and
Yeah.
I'm just like in such honor and reverence to you, to everyone I'm connected to now there,
Yes.
because it's like I can't even, like, if I wanted to every day, I cannot even like ingest or receive all of the codes and the truth that people are sharing within this like tribe that we've been
So
connected to. It's like
true.
I have to stop, because I'm just like, okay, there's two, because I can feel the codes, I can feel the truth, and it'll be new things that I'm like, oh, cool, I've thought about that, but I didn't really know that much about
Yes.
this aspect or this thing. And it's like I have to stop, because it's like there's so much. And I'm just like, that is so cool, because on the other side, there's obviously a whole ocean of all of this distorted stuff. But to now be having reflected to me consistently just this continuous actual raw truth that is actually truly empowering for people is just, it's amazing. Like it's just so cool.
I love that. And also I find the people that I'm connecting, that I guess both of us, as you said, very similar people. It's very supportive, you know? I think that's what I love about it as well.
Yes, it actually feels like a team to me. Like it actually feels like as opposed to in the past when I was kind of more unknowingly kind of in some of this spiritual narcissism and just more of that spiritual matrix kind of world. There was way more comparison for me. I did not feel like I was doing it with other people at all.
Yes.
It felt very much like,
yes,
this is my thing, this is your thing. And now it's like, when I see somebody post like in this community, in this tribe, especially when I'm like in a time of not posting, I'm like, yes, like that's it feels so good, because I feel how we're all connected and we are all doing the work together. And that is like, I feel like that's also just such a beautiful confirmation of being connected to people that you're in true resonance and integrity with each other, that you feel that, you know, and that you feel that inspiration, that support, that just that feeling that we're doing it together. Like I never felt that before coming into connection with all these types of people. So that's amazing.
That's so nice. I love it. I think it's almost like we're saying similar things but in different ways. So every time I hear something, it's like, yes, like you say, you know, it's like, yes, say that again, you know.
One more time.
Yeah. For me, it was like, I think the end of last year just felt really like, oh yeah, it was like, oh yeah, this is the mission, you know? Kind of like, oh, hang on a minute, this is the mission.
I love that.
So funny. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask you about what your understanding was about the whole dimensions 11.5 and below are hijacked.
Just what is my understanding of that? Yeah. I mean, that information has come to me through like Dr. Jerry's work.
Yes.
And I think also through, I think maybe some of the research I've done on Ascension Glossary.
Oh yeah.
And it's one of those things that just it feels true to me, especially knowing the level of distortion that exists in this reality. And then also working with the Maharic shield, the 12D shield, and actually feeling what it feels like to shield myself in 12th dimensional energy. I can feel like a different type of clarity that has started to catalyze within my being. And I can feel when I use tools that are accessing that frequency, I don't even know how to describe it. I can just feel the purity of it. And
Okay.
yeah. So I don't know if that answers. I mean, I'm not like, a whiz on all of the dimensions. I feel like I have a pretty like basic understanding of them. But yeah, that's something that continues to come into my reality, is that the distortion goes all the way up to
Yeah. I just think it's interesting to hear what other people have to say about it, But
totally. Yeah.
and this technique that you mentioned, the Maharic shield, is, like you said, it's bringing in the frequencies from the 12th dimension here. So it basically skips the kind of like distorted ones, I think. But yeah, through Dr. Jerry.
Yeah.
Do you have any feeling or sense of where you think like you will be going, or we will be going, or what are you dreaming?
Oh, what a cool question. The first thing that comes to me is like we're going in, which obviously we've been doing, of course, but I feel like we're just continuing to go in deeper. And I mean, as far as like the physical reality, I have no freaking idea like what my life is going to look like. Like we were talking about earlier, I don't even know. I have no idea where I'm going to live at this point.
Yes.
So I'm not really sure what the physical is going to look like, but I can feel, in terms of myself, in terms of all of us, like as a community, I can feel that we are going in, and that continuous going in is allowing us to truly remember ourselves and truly embody that remembrance.
Yes.
And then be connected to each other through that, which is like how we're intended to be in connection with each other.
Oh, I love that.
And I really feel like, again, I don't know what this looks like or how, the unfolding, but I really feel like communities, like in-person communities, are something that will happen. Like people actually creating communities on land together, growing food, like creating our own little cultures, and like hubs of these people coming together who are truly sourcing from within themselves, truly connected to who they are. I mean, that would be my dream. That would be like freaking amazing, living on some beautiful land and nature with people, like really connecting back to the land. And yeah. So I guess that's what I would say for the moment. But it feels so like, so there feels like so many possibilities of how things could actually take form.
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely been feeling that call as well of communities, real life communities,
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like it keeps getting stronger. I'm like, okay, let's go.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I love that you've been feeling that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, what would you say for yourself? Like the same question. Where you're going or what your dream is?
I feel like there's something inside me is saying like, something's coming, but I'm not really sure what that is. And I feel like I think I just need to keep continuing, keep doing these techniques, and running the source river frequencies. And then like I also personally, I think I just want to remember, I think for me it's been like quite a subtle remembrance, but like I just want to go deeper within that, And I think from there things will be a lot clearer, obviously, right? As you know more. Yeah. And then also what you said about the community as well, like I guess that's like in the not too distant future, I feel like. I think that's gonna happen,
I feel that too. Yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, I don't know. It's a crazy, crazy time right now, I think. All
Yeah.
this, everything that's happening is just, I think we've also gotten so used to it that we kind of forget that, we need to be aware of what's going on, every
Right.
step of this way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good point. There has been this kind of like habituating to the way things are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love what you said. Just in terms of your own remembrance.
Yeah.
I feel like that is, it's like our human brain is like, okay, like where am I going out here? But I feel like what you said is just everything. It's like it's in here, and it's the continuous in here, and that is going to lead us out here.
Yes.
Um,
And I guess, like you said as well, like, I don't know what it's going to look like in this 3D
right.
movie. Yeah.
Right. Yes. And the other thing you said too about you feel something within you, like something's coming,
Yeah.
but you don't know what. I fucking feel that literally.
Really?
So, oh my God, so palpably. But I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I feel that. I
Yeah.
feel that. And my friends Tara and Kelsey, I think you guys are all connected too on Instagram, but they have that same feeling as well.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah, it's mad. I feel like, and it's crazy. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like seeing it again. It's just like something, it's like a big shift is coming. So, like, a
yeah.
huge change is going to happen. I don't know what it's going to look like. Like, it might be disastrous at first,
Yeah. No idea. And I feel like I don't know, it's like collectively, I feel like there's, it's just interesting to think about different timelines, because it's like, obviously there's so many people that are kind of on these like inorganic fallen timelines.
Yeah.
And then there are people that are really intending to choose these organic timelines. Like,
Yes.
I know that's something that we would both resonate with. I know the people that we're connected to is like, we're all intending to choose the organic timelines.
Yeah.
So I wonder how this feeling that we're having of something shifting, it's like, I wonder what that's going to be like on a collective level, because I feel like what may be happening for the collective or people on a certain timeline may be received or experienced very different for people that are on different timelines.
That's so
And I don't know, but I just, yeah, it's just interesting to think about that.
I also, just reflecting back now, I like what you said earlier about, even still the people who are talking about this eternal truth, you're also still very cautious,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And just your own connection to source above everything else,
Yeah.
and all consulting there.
Yeah. I feel like also it's kind of like rewriting our definition of truth, Like, I guess we've kind of spoken about it, but it's like, how do you? It's just like so different to what we've been taught, and it's just different way of sourcing information as well.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Especially when there's such a collective idea of like, this is science and this is what's real and this is what's true. So it's a lot of rewriting, as you said. It's a lot of like deprogramming what we have placed as, I don't know, like the source of truth.
Yes, yes, exactly. Wow, I love that. So amazing.
This was such a good conversation.
It was. I really enjoyed it. I'm so happy. I can't wait to put it out there.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. Do you have any final words? I'd like to just end it with, anything you'd like to share with anyone who might be going through a similar experience. Actually, I'm going to ask you another question after this as well.
Yeah, I think, again, honestly, I feel like what we have been missing as a people is the connection to who we actually are, which is source, which is God. And I think that no amount of teaching or, you know, principle or person outside of you, like nobody else can give you that. Only you can reconnect with your source, with your creator. That's continuously what I'm coming back to, like every day throughout the day with myself. You know, anytime that I feel myself confused or disconnected, it's like, oh yeah, just coming back in, coming back in, coming. And I just think that's the gift, that's the truth that nobody else can give us. We have to choose it for ourselves. And I think that's the way that we move forward in real integrity and real freedom is that above all else. Because if everybody's connected to the source of all, if everybody is connected to God and really trusting how that moves through them, like imagine what the world could be like with that type
Whoa.
of intimacy and love, you know? So that's what I would say.
I love that. That's so nice. Yeah.
Oh,
And I think also it's important, you know, to remember what you said earlier about the false light and the, you know, the fallen beings that have been disconnected from God's source. Because sometimes I just think we have to, again, rewrite our whole definition of God, you know?
yes, you did a post on that recently. Yes, I love that.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
bless. Okay, so I really like to ask this question to get, you know, what other people feel about this word freedom. What does it mean for you?
Such a good question. Oh. Okay, I mean, I feel like it means so many things that I could say, but what's coming to me, again, I feel just this inner feeling when I tune into that word. And for me, I feel like freedom, because we get told, we have this idea like, oh, you know, everybody has free will on this planet, and you know, people who are making this choice or the choice to get the thing, like that's their free will. But is it really free will if we are like being controlled by programs and like beliefs that we didn't even choose, that we just inherited? Is one question that I ask. And
Question.
for me, freedom is like the freedom from all distortion
Oof.
in my consciousness. Like, because am I really free if I am being run or controlled by something that is separate from God and distorted? So I think to me, freedom is that freedom from distortion, to be able to actually feel my connection and that I am forever a part of God's source. Like I am we are these drops in the ocean of God's source. We're the candle flame in the sun. So that's, I guess, what I would say for me. Freedom is the freedom from the distortion to actually feel who and what I really am.
Ooh, I love that. Yes. Yes. Wow. It's so true. Because you have to move through so much just to get to that, you know?
God, yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so much.
Yeah, bless. Oh, thank you so much. It was so nice talking to you. I really enjoyed the conversation, and also just amazing hearing about your journey as well. And it's so similar, you know, in a similar period of time as well.
Yes.
What's been happening? It's
Yeah,
mad.
there must have been things happening like planetarily and energetically that so many of us have been on similar timelines.
Yes.
Because a lot of people this is happening around similar times.
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And just, yeah, this has been so, so beautiful. So thank you for the invitation and the opportunity and sharing your beautiful frequency with me. It's such a gift.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
just keep doing what you're doing, keep shining, keep digging, keep going in. I'm sure that, yeah, you're gonna have some things coming out into the physical reality way.
Yeah, thank you, babe. You too. And I'm excited to see how that all takes shape.
Exactly. Amazing. And yeah, everyone follow Sarah. I'll put all the links in the bottom in the description.
Beautiful. All right. Well, I'm sure I will talk to you soon. Thank you again for having me, and anybody who watches this in the future.
True. Amazing. Have a nice evening.
Yeah, you too. Bye.